let's pull up that graphic because there's some projections here. Shout out to Detroit Lions on SI, Christian Boer. He put out his top 5 options at edge for the Detroit Lions before training camp, and there were 3 other sites as well, the Sporting News and CBS, in addition to this one, who all had this one player in common. But we'll go through the 4 first, evaluating the crop of available edge rushers ahead of training camp. And before we do that, I just want to ask you, how imperative do you think it is that they go? We know that it's a limited field right now, but do you think it is of utmost importance that they go and they snag an edge before we get into training camp?
The question of the day, man. I personally feel like, could they use an edge rusher? Yes. Do they absolutely have to add one, before the season starts? No. And that's just where I'm sitting right now. They feel comfortable with a lot of these people coming back from injury, being able to contribute, and it didn't look too bad in the limited games that we got with everybody healthy last year. So I'm not mad at it, but could they use one? Absolutely, but I don't think it's imperative.
Yeah. I don't think it's I don't know, man. I keep going back and forth.
I know. I see you over there struggling.
I don't know.
A big problem with the fan base.
Smith sounds like it would be like the cherry on top.
No, absolutely it would, and I think they still, maybe consider him to, be trying to come back to the team.
You see Malik Peterson? Can you just read his
hold on.
It's in all caps too, man. He's my inner voice.
Hey,
he's my inner voice. You gotta read it.
And shout out Malik. That's my boy Don P, man, Motor City Don P.
Hey,
yeah,
shout out.
Yeah. So shout out to him, brother. But yeah,
You gotta read it. What did he say?
Get the motherfucking edge, and that's the problem with. And I'm not saying it's you, Don P, but a majority of the fan base, and I love y'all, I really do, and I do get it. Like, the Lions have been lacking a pass rush for, quite a while. And whenever we go against, mobile quarterbacks, that conversation always seems to creep back up. But I think we need to do a better job of adjusting our thinking as a fan base once things don't go the way you want them to go. And when you look at this thing, one, they built from the inside out. They value the interior and getting pressure that way a lot more than they do on the edges. Now, is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, especially when you have Aiden Hutchinson, one of the premier edge rushers in the league. But the big question is, can you get that bookend next to him? Everybody wants that bookend. But when you look across the league, there's not a lot of teams with a notable bookend next to their star. So that's where I say the Lions don't need one. Could they use one? Absolutely. You can always use one, but I don't think they're in a position where, this season is a failure if they don't get one. I'm not in that camp at all.
You know what, man? You know what? All right, you're swaying me a little bit. We're still gonna go through these options though.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you are swaying me with this conversation because you're right. When you look at, are there some teams, maybe a handful, that go out there and they can pair that a little bit better than the Lions? Probably. But we've also seen this Detroit Lions team have in multiple years, Super Bowl in their grasp.
Yeah.
We know obviously a couple years ago was closer than last season, but realistically it was about what's going on offense more so than what was going on defense. You want to be able to slow Jaden Daniels down a little bit, but I wonder how much giving him those 4 extra and 5 extra opportunities with the ball, I wonder how much that puts pressure on your defense, who goes out there, makes a stop, and it's already going to be a lot to try and slow down the Commanders' offense. Yeah. And then you're putting them right back out there on the field. So you do honestly, that's a great case in point. If we playing chess, that's one of the moves where I'm sitting back like, dang, I don't think you got me in checkmate yet. But it's looking kind of bleak because you're exactly right when you're looking at the makeup of some of these other squads that honestly went a little further than the Lions did last year.
Yeah, and another thing fans mistake is that, to stop a mobile quarterback, you just got to have a fast edge rusher. And that's kind of, something that's a little bit overplayed as well. Does having a fast, speed off the edge help? Absolutely. But it's really more of a schematical change that needs to be made for the Lions defense to be able to better corral these mobile quarterbacks. And I think that's something that Kelvin Shepard is capable of with the linebackers. And you already know, you big linebacker over there, big linebacker room, my guy, Kool-Aid. But,
yeah.
But I think that, if you can get a pretty good pass rush and also just scheme your linebackers a little bit better, that will help you tenfold and being able to stop mobile quarterbacks. But I don't think it's just as simple as, okay, just get a fast guy off the edge and that'll solve all your problems. It won't.
Especially when you know that this team is looking for that intersection of players that fit really their culture in addition to what they're going to be able to give on the field. Because I do believe that goes hand in hand. And we know that this Lions team is one that sometimes they're going to ask more of you than what you just do. And what boosts that? We know here at this team. And we're not saying that it's exactly like the Lions, but we know working with teams when we're looking at, okay, I'm with my brothers and we understand the character of the people around us and how they're going to go to bat for us, it does give you just that little bit extra edge that can propel teams to the next level. When we talk about champions in the city, that's the things that we knew out of the 2004 Pistons, who to this day, they still call themselves what? Brothers.
Yeah.
And champions. And we saw how much, one of the more famous lines or moments from their championship run, it was already decided. You knew that they were going to win. Absolute pandemonium. All they had to do was keep the pedal to the metal because they were beating the F out of the Lakers, dog. They were blowing them out. And Larry Brown said, hey, guys, I love you guys. That's what I like. The intersection of knowing that we got some dogs out there, but understanding who they're going to be to come together as a real team, who they're going to be. That to me does matter with this squad.
No, absolutely. And it could be a situation like we're looking at with the Tigers this year. They didn't necessarily add a shitload to the positions that we all knew that they needed to add to. But you're seeing some of these guys step up. And when you just
KG,
no, but when you think about the injury situation last year and how they looked before all the injuries, I think Brad Holmes is well within his right to say, I think we got it all in house. I think that, this is pretty much set up. We just need to add a piece here and there to supplement our depth, and that way we can ride throughout the totality of a season.
All right, because, all right. If I'm going to apply the same logic that I did with the Tigers, right? Because with the Tigers, I predicted that this squad was going to take a step forward with less talent, perceivable talent in the beginning of the season. Now we're looking at them like, look at this squad. Yeah, they got 2 All-Stars. In the beginning of the season, I thought they could take the leap just from internal growth, and I wasn't even projecting multiple All-Stars beyond Scoobs and Green.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at this Lions team who I believe has a lot more talent on it. We saw the All-Pros. We saw the Pro Bowlers. We know the draft picks. We know the second-year players, which we're going to get into that conversation when we talk TA and Ennis Rakestraw in the second-year leaps.
Absolutely.
This team should be primed to have the internal growth take them to the next level. Who's one of the poster childs for that? Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
And I know it wasn't necessarily the first year, the second year leap for him, but the leap that we just saw him take from one season to the next, to be able to fill a place of a need that wasn't necessarily a need when we drafted him, that to me shows realistically the health of this organization. And realistically, even when they're identifying their players and the needs that they have on their squad, it's like Brad Holmes said, it might not be aligning the way that we necessarily perceive it. But as this dial continues to turn, how many people are like, yeah, we need J-Mo, that weren't saying that on draft night?
Exactly.
It is just a little bit different. But I want to get into some of these options because I want to be able to pick you all's brains. Should we take a quick one, or do we introduce these options and we'll come back and talk about Mr. Judon, who CBS Sporting News and Sports Illustrated, they were all in unison. They're all saying Matthew Judon to the Lions.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, but let's pull up some of these other 4 options real quick, and we'll take a quick break and come back and discuss.
Yeah, I got you.
JB Smooth, you want to read off some of the ones and just some blurbs? And voice of reason, I want you to tell me if you're hot or cold. Everybody as well.
If you're yes or you're no. You're in or you're out. You're up or you're down. You're wrong or you're right. You're black or you're white.
Let's rock, bro. Tell me, man, how to cold on some of these options.
We can start with one of them. How about one Mr. Von Miller? Does that interest anybody just yet in Von Miller?
See, the player I'm absolutely interested in.
This is the same thing Brad Holmes is doing.
He could come in and be a veteran leader for this team. Don't get me wrong, but the age
up face though, man.
The age concerns me. The age absolutely concerns me, and he's been more injury prone later in his career. So that's something that, could you bring him in on maybe a vet minimum and, ride that way? I wouldn't be mad at it. Let's say that. But that's not somebody
Yeah,
that
the
I
chat
would.
is like they're with you.
That's not somebody I would seek out. Though. It's not somebody I would seek
They
out.
are.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Dante 151. He's old. Eric Allen passed on Miller. Steve DeYoung. Nope.
Yeah. At
Vincent
this point.
E. Von Miller can stay out.
Yeah.
Shout out to Guardian.
Right. Big shout out. Maybe 2 years ago, I would be way more on board with this, and I wouldn't be mad. I'm just not on board completely.
I see you, ADiz411. He says, hell no on old Von Miller. Linebacker, don't need him. I like linebackers, but even me, I'm like, nah. Jimmy Skinner, for the first time in almost a decade, it feels good to have pride in Detroit sports. Definitely
It does.
feel that.
It does.
Definitely feel it. But yeah, that's like freezing Detroit winter cold for me on Von Miller. Seriously, and I like linebackers, but I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, we can pass on Vine. We appreciate you though.
All right, we passing on Von. What about one Mr. Preston Smith?
Okay. Preston Smith,
4.5 sacks last season, playing for Green Bay and Pittsburgh.
I'd be more on board with this move, and this is not a move that would like blow you away, but he is somebody that can come in. He's a hard worker. He can get to the quarterback, especially in tandem with, what we got on the other side. So I wouldn't be mad at this move.
And you see his best ability?
Is availability.
His availability.
Damn
He
right.
played
He's always on the
16
field.
See, there you go. He's playing at least 16 games in every single game, every single season. Like that's pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
And especially when you contrast that with what we had last year, but I still, to me, I'm feeling like Weezy D31. He's saying y'all want Z back, but don't want Von. Is Lions fans IQ in a nutshell? No,
Z and Von is two different things. And I get that Von is technically a better player than Zadarius Smith, but come on, Zadarius Smith's production at this age is looking a lot better than Von Miller's at this point. So, and he's on the field once again, availability.
Yeah. This one is probably one that would present a little bit of a deal to the Lions over potentially Zadarius Smith, who the rumors are he's probably still waiting out there to see if there's that deal, that last kind of deal he can get. And I get it. He's an older player, but he's a player who, we went through the stats already, is still really, really, really productive and ranks among some of the top pass rushers in certain of these metrics and stats.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I'm on board for Preston Smith.
Hey, what up, though? Who's next, brother? Hey, this 4-1 says he got some info on Preston. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat, Hey, this. But who you got next, man? Who we hot or cold on?
DJ Smoot, I believe I'm pronouncing his name.
Dwayne Smoot.
Smoot.
Dwayne Smoot. So not too familiar with his game, but he's good against the run, it looks like. He had just 1.5 sacks last season. He seems to be a little more run dominant. So I don't know. I'll probably take a pass. I'll take a pass on this guy.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the thing. At first, I was like, do we just look at a Matthew Judon? Because I know it's one aspect to say, what we want to have happen. It's another thing when you actually do the exercise that Brad Holmes is probably doing, that we know he's doing. And this is the menu. And the menu is like, what? Oh, man, I thought it was at, a, freaking Pizzapopolis.
You're right.
But instead, you guys are bringing out the Uno's frozen pizza.
Little Caesar.
Yeah, I mean, the Little Caesars. But that's the menu that we're seeing. And that's why I want that discussion, because I know you've largely been one of the ones who've like, look, there's things that we would like for them to do, but this team is still in a good place. I've been one who largely have been like, I really do believe that this squad needs to be able to add some more pass rush help. But when you start to really break it down, and if we do expect Aiden Hutchinson to be that guy, to make that return, if we were just believing that this guy was going to come back at all and do anything if we made it to the Super Bowl for us, then we should be able to be in a position to believe that if he has a full offseason to come back and be that guy to work towards that big bag, that contract we know he's going to get, then you're exactly right when you lay out the fact that they went and they added that meat in the middle, trademark Cavassier Chase to the interior of their defensive line. And now they're in a position to where they signed up some depth and some rotation pieces for the other edge, and they still have the availability to go out there and make something else happen if they want. But I do believe that this defensive line is a lot more healthy than we give it credit for. And I'm just, as we're going through this process, you realize even if you wanted them to go out there and get something else, it is slim pickings at this point in time.
Yeah, and they did add Ahmad Hassan into this room,
Yep,
who I feel like will contribute in year one. I don't know how much he will contribute, but he is going to be somebody that's in your rotation. So if you look at a move like a Zadarius Smith, I think that kind of puts you over the top in terms of defensive line play, and some of the players on it. And to me, he's the best like pass rushing edge option out there. If we just looking through some of these names, but we do got to see the other two. So I do want to see the other two names.
Hey, let's rock, man. What's next, brother?
Well, fan favorite for everyone, one Mr. Zadarius Smith.
Yes. Pick.
Well, yeah, what's understood don't need to be said.
5 flames. I'm about fired up meter.
Yep.
That was the one. That was the one I believe we all bought into, especially when we knew, okay, Brad Holmes gave himself all the flexibility in the world to be able to get a good look at Zadarius Smith, and we saw Zadarius Smith performed without Hutchinson, and we were all on this train of what he could be when he gets back. And now you look at the fact that they even, went to bolster the interior of this line. I would love to be able to see, Zadarius Smith be here for multiple reasons. What he can do in the field. This is a situation I do believe with the depth can keep him fresh. Mm-hmm. I think that he doesn't have to come here and have the usage that he had last time he was here.
No, he doesn't.
But that's the battle that you play, because if that's the case, then that's why Brad's probably going to say, I only have this many pennies.
Exactly.
Rather than the full usage, I can still make a difference. And that's where hopefully the eyes are set to what the Detroit Lions are this season for Super Bowl when doing Super Bowl contention.
Absolutely. And to me, this is the best option for Zadarius Smith. If he's chasing a ring, this is the best option for you to do so, especially in the NFC.
The chat's lighting up right now.
No, absolutely. And shout out, speaking of the chat, shout out to Randall Smalls. He said Wingo to defensive end. And that is something that, last year they did give him some reps at defensive end. He's a D tackle by nature, but he is also somebody coming back from injury this year that we didn't get to see a lot of last year. And he did get some reps in, I believe, training camp and the preseason at defensive end. So maybe that is also an option that they could use to maybe kind of supplement that other edge position.
Dang, man. And I see ADS 411. He said 2 of them, Smith and Smoot. And Anakin Skyover said this one is an obvious choice.
Yeah.
Doughboy Steve, Zaza Gaber. Let me see here.
They not adding 2 edges to this room. I can tell you. It'll be one more if we're lucky. One more.
I see Super Bowl Cartier. Davenport has a long rap sheet on the IR. Be reasonable, Weezy. What happened?
Yeah.
Oh, he said just go ahead and say y'all got Davenport getting hurt week 1. I mean,
but we don't know. Playing the injury game, you can never guess when the fuck injuries are gonna happen. And I do get his history. Like, make no mistake. If it was me, I wouldn't necessarily want him as my starter either at this point. But you never know, man. What if he goes out here and he plays at least 12 games this season? Then what? Because in the limited sample size that we did see Davenport, he was he was very useful to Aiden Hutchinson on the other end. He's a power rusher that can still get to the quarterback and utilize his speed in a lot of ways. When he's on the field, he's productive. So that's why, again, I can understand Brad Holmes' line of thinking. I'm not necessarily agreeing with it. I'm just saying I can understand it, though.
Hey, look, before we get to this 5th player, man, I'm looking at the chat, and it's absolutely hilarious. Obviously, everybody is for Zadarius Smith. A-Diz, no-brainer. Z Smith, Eric Allen, all caps. Zadarius Smith, yes.
I mean, this is the no-brainer. He was already on the team. Like, this is a no-brainer.
And I'm just, this, obviously, Chuckle Cheese, Z all day. Malik Peterson, you said that's Don P. Shout out, please, Motor City Don P. says, please come home. I got beans and bologna. Yeah.
We all want Z back, man. We all want Z back.
Hey, but
it's yet to be seen.
Number 5, and you know what? Because I saw an interesting comment in the chat from Eric Allen too, which is perfect segue for the year 2, and I will find that chat that comment again. But who we got that's number 5 on this list? JB Smooth.
Number 5 on this list. He's been rumored to Detroit probably in previous years, but one Mr. Matt Judon.
Listen, bro, CBS Sports, Sporting News, and Christian Boer of Detroit Lions on SI, they're all saying that Matthew Judon is the guy. Now, this is a person I've heard you talk about before in the past. I know that you were a little bit more high on what Zadarius Smith could be, but you also said if they strike out or if they're looking for something budget, if they're looking for something impactful for this season, especially within rotation and get a little bit more pressure on the quarterback and into that backfield. You did mention Matthew Judon, but at this stage, where do you sit? Because the experts are saying Matthew Judon to the Detroit Lions makes a lot of sense.
Last year around this time, I would have been fully on board with this move. At this point, I would say no. I would pass on Matt Judon. And it just seems like he's trending in the downward direction. His last year with New England, only 4 sacks. And, of course, he got hurt that year. He only played 4 games. But when you look at what happened with Atlanta, he played 15 games, but his numbers were down across the board. I mean, 41 tackles, only 5.5 sacks, 9 QB hits. Not bad numbers by any stretch, but far from the numbers that we saw in his prime in New England. And it raises the question of whether he was just a system guy all along, because his best years were in New England. He had some good years in Baltimore, don't get me wrong, but he really went over the top once he became a member of the New England Patriots. But when you look at that last year and then you roll that with the year he had with Atlanta last year, maybe he is somebody that is starting to regress in his career. He's starting to take that step back. And at 32, almost 33 years old, I would much rather have Zadarius Smith, who is around the same age but is offering better production at this point in his career.
Yeah.
He was almost a double-digit sack guy last year. I would much rather have that guy in my building.
I feel like that dude, Justin, because I know we talked about 5 different players, but I feel like when he was talking about journalism, it was Zadarius Smith. It was always Zadarius Smith. What up, though, man? Because you see what's out there. We understand what he's done, and I thought KG did a good job at laying out the fact that this squad is a 15-2 team, and that was without some of the dogs that they're actually getting back this year. They are a lot more healthy than I think some fans give them credit for.
Yes, I completely agree, and I'm with you on Judon. I think that the best answer is Zadarius Smith. He's been here. He had one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, even without Aiden Hutchinson. So why would we go away from that? Like we know he's proven. We know what we're going to get out of him. We know that he's going to be a respectable edge to put across from Hutch. I just don't see the vision of having to go out. And even though Judon probably only cost like a 5th round pick, like why even waste that asset? Why not just go out and sign Zadarius Smith? They're such similar players at this point in their careers where Zadarius Smith already knows the playbook. He already has a great relationship with the room.
Exactly.
They look at him like he's a father figure in that room, and the way that he is able to command that locker room and help that locker room and teach those kids how to get better. I just think that there's a lot more that you can get from Zadarius Smith than there is out of Matt Judon.
I 100% agree with that, man. 100% agree. But you know what? I want to get into the